Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for kindly welcoming me into your beautiful community. I want to thank especially Her Grace Vishaka Prabhu for being so gracious. I want to thank our dear Shilen Prabhu for coordinating the visit, and thank all of you for your valuable time and your kind attention. My name is Madana-gopāla. I live in New Jersey in the US. I'm just visiting here to try to get as much association as I can from all of you. So today we enter a very subtle and beautiful section of Caitanya-caritamrta. On the surface, these verses seem simple. A devotee invites the Lord. The Lord stays in Varanasi. Some Brahmins invite him and he politely declines. That's the whole story. But for progressive devotees, for advanced devotees, these verses are not merely a historical record. They reveal the inner architecture of Gaudiya Vaishnava life. Affection, a sense of dependence, hospitality, discernment, association, like how you choose your association, siddhanta, leadership. All these are there in these verses. We just have to draw them out. So, we know Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna, the supreme independent Lord. No one can force him. No one can bind him. No one can control him. And yet, the astonishing truth of bhakti is this, that the unconquerable Lord becomes conquered by the love of his devotees. So here, Mahaprabhu had no plan to remain in Varanasi. But we see Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar, they didn't merely request him. They offered their hearts. They created a space of such devotion and dependence that the Lord became obliged. This is the mystery of bhakti. The Lord is not controlled by power or position, scholarship, austerity, or social influence. He is controlled by loving service. So the title of our discussion is Sacred Boundaries, Loving Dependence. Because in these 5 verses we see 2 things together. The Lord becomes lovingly bound by his devotees. And the Lord carefully avoids association that may dilute his pure bhakti. So he's giving a lesson here. That is the balance we need as progressive devotees and leaders. Hearts soft enough to host the Lord, and discernment, a discrimination sharp enough to protect our devotion. So this chapter is Madhya Lila, chapter 17, the Lord travels to Vrindavan. It is one of the most astonishing chapters in Sri Caitanya-caritamrta because it contains the famous Jarikhand forest pastimes. It's this one. Mahaprabhu passes through the forest, chanting the holy names, and his kirtan awakens devotion not just in human beings, but in wild animals. Not even like domestic animals. Tigers and deer and elephants and birds. Oh my. And other creatures become spiritually transformed. Natural enemies are embracing each other. The impossible becomes possible. The forest of Jharkhand becomes the forest of Vrindavan. This is not sentimental mythology. It is a theological declaration. When pure Nam descends through the pure devotee, even the most conditioned instincts can be overturned. Violence becomes affection. Fear becomes kirtan. The jungle becomes a temple. Then the scene shifts. From the wild forest, Mahaprabhu enters Varanasi, a city overflowing with sacred prestige. Sanskrit learning and sannyasis and big scholars and renunciation, scriptural study and Vedanta discussion. It's an epicenter. But there is a paradox. In the forest, animals dance in bhakti. And in Varanasi, scholars are covered by impersonalism. They don't dance. Animals are better. So the chapter moves from an external jungle to an internal jungle. The animals become softened by Nam. But the learned may remain hardened by a sense of pride and misconception. This is why these verses are so profound. Mahaprabhu has just shown the unlimited reach of mercy. Yet when he enters Varanasi, he also shows the necessity of discrimination, discernment. Mercy does not mean carelessness. No one is more merciful than Mahaprabhu, and yet he also decides who's going to have lunch with. We have to be careful. Compassion does not mean indiscriminate intimacy. Preaching does not mean spiritual vulnerability. These are the lessons. There's so many lessons. So we'll read the verse. Maybe we can all just sing it together. Is that okay? Just get the tune when I sing it, okay? Mishra kahe Prabhu yavat kashi te rahiba mora nimantrana vina anya namaniba. Tapan Mishra then said, "My dear Lord, as long as you stay at Varanasi, please do not accept any invitation other than mine." And sing together. E matta mahaprabhu dui bhrityera bashe ichha nahi tabu tatha rahila dinadashe. Even though he had not made such a plan, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained for 10 days at Varanasi, being obligated by the requests of his two servants. Maharashtriya Vipra aise Prabhu dekhi bare Prabhu rupa prema dekhi haya chamatkare. At Varanasi, there was a Maharashtrian Brahman who used to come daily to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This Brahmana was simply astonished to see the Lord's personal beauty and ecstatic love for Krishna. Viprastaba nimantraya Prabhu nahi mane Prabhu kohe aji mora haya che nimantrane. When the Brahmanas of Varanasi would invite Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to lunch, the Lord would not accept their invitations. He would reply, "I have already been invited somewhere else." And the last verse. E mata pratidina karena vanchana sanyasira sangha bhaye namanena nimantrana. Every day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu refused their invitations because he feared associating with Mayavadi sannyasis. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. A Vaishnava sannyasi never accepts an invitation from a party who considers Mayavadi sannyasis and Vaishnava sannyasis to be one and the same. In other words, Vaishnava sannyasis do not at all like to associate with Mayavadi sannyasis, to say nothing of eating with them. This principle must be followed by the sannyasis of the Krishna consciousness movement. This is the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu given by his personal behavior. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-anjana Shalakaya Chakshuruntam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. I offer my humble obeisances to the lotus feet of my spiritual master, who kindly opened my darkened eyes and filled my heart with transcendental knowledge. I further offer my obeisances to all of you assembled Vaishnavas and seek your kind blessings that I may read Srimad Bhagavatam with you and Sri Caitanya-caritamrta. So we are on slide number 4. Tapan Mishra says to the Lord, as long as you stay in Varanasi, please do not accept any invitation other than mine. So don't accept any invitation other than mine. This is a very intimate request. Externally, it sounds like hospitality. Internally, it is loving possessiveness. You know how it is, right? When someone says, you visit someone and say, don't go anywhere else, stay with me, only at my house. Tapan Mishra is not thinking, let me become famous as the person who hosted Mahaprabhu. That's not what he's thinking. He's not trying to control the Lord for prestige. His request comes from affection, from service, and anxiety. Anxiety, yes. What is anxiety? My Lord, please let me serve you. Please allow my home, my kitchen, my life to be used for your pleasure. Then the next verse says something quite extraordinary. Now, although Mahaprabhu had not planned to stay, he remained for 10 days. Yes, look at their mood, right? They're asking the Lord. He remained for 10 days because he was obligated by the requests of his two servants, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. The word obligated is very important. That's the word it's used. The Supreme Lord becomes indebted to his devotees' love. Even Krishna, he tells the gopis, I cannot pay you back. In other worldly life, like in regular worldly life, right? Obligation often feels heavy. It's like when you're doing dishes for yourself, it feels, but when you're washing dishes for the Lord, it's like a whole different experience. Same thing. Obligation in spiritual life is not, well, in bhakti it's divine obligation. It's the sweetness of love. Like Krishna becomes bound by Mother Yashoda. Krishna becomes the messenger of the Pandavas. Krishna becomes the chariot driver of Arjuna. Here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, same Krishna, is bound by Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar. So, progressive devotees should meditate on this deeply. The Lord may not be bound or obliged by external position, but He may become obliged by my sincerity. Yes. We should have the hope that one day I'll be sincere enough that the Lord will be obliged. How can we do that? A temple, a home, a sadhaka's heart, all can become places where the Lord chooses to remain. We just have to keep telling the Lord, a few more days. Until He just doesn't leave. A few more days, few more days. This slide gives us one of the major principles of the class. Hospitality becomes theology. A plate of prasadam is not just food. We don't use the word food, we just say prasadam. A room offered for the Lord is not just space. And a request from a devotee is not just social etiquette. When offered with bhakti, ordinary gestures become spiritual theology in action. Tapan Mishra's home becomes a place where Mahaprabhu stays. That means the home is no longer just domestic space. It becomes sanctified space. It becomes an extension of bhakti. For progressive devotees, this is very important. We sometimes think theology is only in lectures or in books or in debates. But Caitanya-caritamrta repeated, that's why it's so advanced, because it reminds you of something that's... Oops. That, what does Caitanya-caritamrta tell us? That theology is embedded in behavior. Our behavior is our theology. We can't have one theology and different behavior. You have to sync them. How do we receive devotees? How do we feed Vaishnavas? How do we create spaces where people feel spiritually safe? How do we host the Lord in our home, our temple, our hearts? Hospitality. Hospitality means my life is not for my comfort alone. My resources are meant to give shelter to Krishna and his devotees. In leadership, to the verse in leadership, this becomes even more important. People may not when they first come, they don't experience our Siddhanta through philosophical argument. They experience Siddhanta through how they're received. How we smile when we see them. Practice. If you don't feel like. Eventually it'll look natural. Right now it looks cheesy. Warmth is not a side issue. Gaudiya Vaishnavism is so deep, and warmth is a part of Siddhanta, because Krishna is a person and bhakti is relational. It's relationship based. So the question is this: do our homes, our temples, our communities, our circles, do they make the Lord want to stay? That's what this lesson is about. We go to the next slide. This verse 101 introduces a Maharashtrian Brahman. Keep looking at the slide, it'll get clearer. He would come daily to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was astonished by two things: the Lord's personal beauty and his ecstatic love for Krishna. This is a powerful combination. Rupa and bhava. Personal beauty and his bhava. Divine form and divine emotion completely saturated the space. In Maharashtra, look at the Brahman. He's like, whoa, what's this? The Brahmana does not begin with a complete philosophical understanding. He does not yet know all the ontological conclusions of Chaitanya Tattva. But he sees something undeniable. He sees beauty that is not material beauty. He sees emotion that is not ordinary emotion. He sees a person whose very presence reveals Krishna Prem, right? From him, Prema emanates. Emanates. We say that every morning. This teaches us something very important for preaching and for leadership. Before people understand our philosophy, they often encounter our presence. See, Mahaprabhu didn't say anything to this Brahman. They encounter our mood. They encounter whether Krishna consciousness has made us beautiful in character, softened in heart, and deep in spiritual feelings. That's why it's a great responsibility to put on tilak. Because someone judges us, oh, what kind of devotee are you? You know, have you ever heard of that? You've been doing it for 3 years and you're still like so irritated when I come in front of you. What kind of devotee are you? You know, we are judged by that. We have to change. Because now we represent Krishna. Progressive devotees should ask, is my bhakti visible in my being? Not in a performative way, but in a transformative way. Have I transformed? It's different. The Maharashtrian Brahmana becomes attracted because Mahaprabhu's beauty, his body and heart are both radiating Krishna. His beauty is not separate from his bhava. This is again a critique of dry religion. One may have the correct vocabulary, correct dress, correct institutional identity, and yet not radiate any bhakti. It's possible. Mahaprabhu reveals that the highest preaching is not merely what we say, but what we have become. Not even what we do. Although what we do is important. But we have to become devotees. See? So Varanasi is one of the holiest cities in India. It's associated with renunciation, with scripture, sacred bathing, liberation, learning. Anybody here been to Banaras, Varanasi? Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. All the scholars walking around. And of course, learning. It is filled with brahmanas and sannyasis and Vedanta scholars. Yet in this section, Varanasi also represents a danger. What is the danger? Scholarship without devotion. The Mayavadi sannyasis were not ordinary materialists. They were renounced, serious sannyasis. They were super strict. They were renounced, they were learned, they were disciplined. They were socially respected. But their conclusions were deeply opposed to personal devotional service to Krishna. Opposed. This is sobering for us. This is sobering. Spiritual danger does not always come dressed as obvious irreligion. Sometimes it comes dressed as sophistication, renunciation, intellectualism, or prestige. This is why Mahaprabhu is so careful. He doesn't reject learning. That's not what he's saying. He doesn't reject renunciation. He's a strict sannyasi. He does not reject Varanasi. But he avoids the association that may blur the personal nature of the absolute truth and weaken our bhakti. Mayavadi philosophy is like throwing acid on the face of our bhakti. It is really damaging and very hard to recover. And Mahaprabhu said, Mayavad bhashya shunile hoibe sharbanash. You'll be destroyed completely. Whoa, that's heavy. For progressive devotees, this is crucial. The question is not simply, is this person intelligent? Is this group spiritual? Is this environment impressive? The question is this: does the association here deepen my surrender to Krishna? Does it make me question it? Does it increase my taste for the holy name? Does it strengthen service to Guru Gauranga? Does it make Krishna more personal, more central, more lovable? If not, then even sacred-looking association can become spiritually hazardous. Let me go to the next verse, verse 102. It says that when the Brahmana of Varanasi invited Mahaprabhu to lunch, he did not accept. What would he say? I have already been invited somewhere else. I have prior commitments. This is a master class in boundaries. Mahaprabhu does not insult them. He didn't say, you guys are all jerks. I'm never going to see your face again. No. He didn't say that. He does not create unnecessary conflict. Something for us to learn. Try not to create conflicts unnecessarily. He does not lecture everyone in public. He simply refuses gracefully. This is very relevant behavior for progressive devotees. There's devotees, and then there's progressive devotees. That's all of you. Progressive devotees, and especially for leaders. Sometimes we think that every boundary requires a dramatic explanation. Mahaprabhu doesn't do that. He doesn't get into it, right? You don't have to explain every little gesture. Sometimes we feel that if we don't explain everything, people will misunderstand us. But Mahaprabhu shows that dharma can sometimes be protected quietly. Right? A mature devotee does not need to be harsh in order to be firm. Mature devotee does not need to be agreeable in order to be compassionate. This is a delicate art. Many devotees struggle between the two extremes. What are the two extremes? One extreme is avoidance of all discomfort. So we say yes to everything. Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Jai Shri Ram Lakshmana Hanuman ji ki, Jai Shri Gaunita ki, Jai Hare. So one extreme is avoidance of all discomfort, so we say yes to everything. And then later we become resentful or compromised. The other extreme is harshness, where we make every boundary into a battle. And we just fall in love with being argumentative and just make everything into a fight. Two extremes. Completely averse to any kind of conflict. Completely. Just say yes to everything. And later, I double booked everything. My whole day is double booked. Now what do I do? And the other one is, no, why are you talking to me? Two extremes. Everything is a battle. My diary is always free. Mahaprabhu shows a third way, gentle firmness. That's what we learn here. I've already been invited somewhere else, thank you. The words are simple, but the principle is profound. This is why Caitanya-caritamrta is deceivingly simple. Why do you think it's called PhD? It's so simple. He just said, no, someone invited, what's the big deal? There's so much to learn here. Not every door should be opened. Not every invitation should be accepted. And not every association should be normalized. Go to the next verse. Verse 103 in Prabhupada's purport. Bring the theological center of this section. Mahaprabhu refused the invitation. Why did he refuse the invitation? Because he feared what? He feared association with who? Mayavadis. He feared association with the Mayavadi sannyasis. The word feared must be understood properly. Mahaprabhu can be fearful of anything. The Supreme Lord is not afraid in the ordinary sense. Rather, he is teaching by example. He's showing how seriously a Vaishnava should regard association. Srila Prabhupada states very strongly that a Vaishnava sannyasi does not accept invitations from those who consider Mayavadi sannyasis and Vaishnava sannyasis to be the same. Sannyasis make a big deal. We're all brothers here. Why does he say we shouldn't mix? Because such mixing blurs Siddhanta. It gives the impression that personalism and impersonalism are simply two equal paths. We are not the same. Or two equivalent spiritual styles. Now we have Shikha, they have no Shikha. What's the big deal? It's a small hairstyle different. No, it's different. Not just hairstyle different. For Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the distinction is not cosmetic. It is foundational. Krishna is not ultimately formless. Bhakti is not a lower step. The devotee does not merge into the Lord. The eternal relationship between Jiva and Krishna is real, distinct, individual, eternally. At the same time, we must not turn this principle into arrogance in our behavior, or hatred, or sectarian contempt. Mahaprabhu later delivers these same Mayavadi sannyasis. He shows them extraordinary mercy. But he does not casually mix with them on their terms. You see the difference? That's the key distinction. Mercy, outward, intimacy, protected and guarded. We can respect all. We should. We can be kind to all. We should be. We can preach to all, but we should be very careful about whom we allow to shape our inner life. This slide brings out this advanced distinction. A neophyte devotee may think, if I respect everyone, I must associate intimately with everyone. That's how you show respect. Open my heart to everybody. Get all the ideas from everywhere, wherever they're flowing, let them influence me. No. But sadhus and shastra, they teach a more nuanced principle. Respect should be broad, universal respect. Trust should be selective. Intimacy should be earned through shared surrender to Krishna. You don't intimately open up your feelings and your heart to someone who is not aspiring for genuine surrender to Krishna. This is not elitism. Oh, look at me, I'm so, No. It is spiritual ecology. Ecology. What do I mean ecology? If you place a delicate plant in the wrong climate, it will not survive. Our Bhakti Lata Beej, which is the seed, and then the Lata is a creeper. The creeper of devotion requires protection. Creeper is not a tree. Creeper is soft, delicate. Requires protection from all sides. It needs watering by Shravana and Kirtana. But it also needs a fence from offense. Build a fence to protect you from offenses. Protect you from misconceptions and harmful association. So progressive devotees must learn to ask, what association nourishes my faith? What association agitates my mind? What association makes me critical, dry, proud, or distracted? What association increases nama ruchi, taste for the holy name? Seva bhav, the spirit of devotional service, serving others. What association increases my humility? and sense of dependence on the Lord. Mahaprabhu is universal in his compassion, but he's precise in his association. See the difference? He floods the world, but he doesn't take everything that washes back in. Right? This is a very high standard. In modern leadership, this becomes especially important because we often function in pluralistic, interfaith, academic, professional, and institutional settings. I'm in communications in the US, and we visit these Hindu conferences, and I meet with all kinds of Mayavadis. We sit together, talk, we're friends and all that. I know them by name. We meet year after year. We discuss what's working, their temple, what's not. You can't help it. We may cooperate with many people. We may speak respectfully with many people, of course. But our spiritual nourishment must come from those who strengthen our bhakti, our siddhanta, and our service mood. Strengthen those three things. The heart must be open, but the inner altar must be protected. You see how we have this wrought iron gates? So beautiful. But they're meant to keep people out, the wrong kind of people. We need this wrought iron gate in our heart. And only open it when the progressive devotees are here. In the middle of the night, when the burglars come, they have to be locked. That's our heart. The inner altar must be protected. This slide applies the verses to leadership. And we are leaders to some degree. Temples and communities need both warmth and boundaries. Leaders have to have boundaries, but also have to have warmth. Can't have leadership without warmth. If we have boundaries without warmth, the community becomes cold, rigid, fear-based. If you have warmth without boundaries, the community becomes diluted, confused, and spiritually vulnerable. We need both. Mahaprabhu shows both. The lessons for all of us to learn. This is how we treat Caitanya-caritamrta. Every verse has so much. He accepts loving hospitality from Tapan Mishra, Chandrasekhar. See how beautifully he's being requested? He accepts it. That is warmth. But he refuses invitations connected with the Mayavadi association. That is boundary. So a healthy Vaishnava culture must know how to do both and know where to put the boundary and where to apply warmth. If we apply warmth in the wrong place and boundary in the wrong place, we'll again create damage. You see? We must create environments as leaders where devotees feel welcomed, nourished, seen, and cared for. But we must also clearly protect siddhanta, standards, sadhana, and the purpose of the movement. That's why Prabhupada wrote the 7 purposes. We should know what they are so we don't go somewhere else. Sometimes leaders fail because they are too harsh. People do not feel loved. Our people need to feel heard, seen, loved. Sometimes leaders fail because they're too vague. People do not know what we stand for anymore. That's important too. Mahaprabhu's example teaches mature leadership, deeply affectionate and deeply principled. So in practical terms, this means what? Feed people, hear them, receive them, encourage them, give them shelter. But also clearly teach what is favorable, what is unfavorable for their bhakti. The goal is not to win ideological battles. The goal is to create a culture where Krishna wants to remain. So I'm going to ask you, all of you. 3 questions for all of you mature devotees. Let us not leave this as only a historical discussion. Mahaprabhu's Varanasi's pastimes, right? They're asking something from us. They're asking us to examine our own homes, our temples of relationship, and leadership mood. So these questions, these are for you. First, where do I need warmer hospitality? This may mean with guests, with new devotees, family members, struggling devotees, younger devotees, or even senior devotees who quietly need care. Everybody needs care. Sometimes we are philosophically astute, correct, but emotionally unavailable. Tapan Mishra teaches us that love makes space. Second, where do I need clearer boundaries? This may be in certain conversations, media, relationships, ideological influences, institutional patterns, or even internal habits. Mahaprabhu teaches us that protecting bhakti is not narrow-mindedness, it is devotion. And third, what association most increases my taste for the holy name, Nam? That is the deepest question. Not who flatters me, not who entertains me. Oh, yeah, it's so much fun. Every time he says something, I'm just rolling on the floor laughing. Not who agrees with me politically or socially, but who wants to make me chant better. I mean, this person really cares for me to chant better. That's the person I want to hang out with. Who makes me want to serve Guru and Krishna more purely? That's the person I want in my life. Who makes Krishna feel more real because he's very real in their life? So this is what I want to invite you to all reflect on. These are 3 questions that we can glean from these verses. So let us close by returning to the image of these verses. The Lord of the universe enters Varanasi. He has just made wild animals dance in Jharkhand forest. Tigers and deer have forgotten their enmity. The forest has become a kirtan hall. The impossible has become natural in the presence of the pure name. Then he comes to a city of learning and prestige and so on. And there the Lord does something quieter but equally profound. He allows himself to be held by the affection of his devotees. And he refuses association that would blur the truth of bhakti. That is our meditation. May our homes be like Tapan Mishra's home, places where the Lord feels invited. May our hearts be like Chandrasekhar's heart, simple, loyal, eager to serve. And may our eyes be like that Maharashtrian Brahmana's eyes, like big, able to recognize the divine beauty and the ecstatic love when they appear before us. May our intelligence be like Mahaprabhu's example, compassionate to all, but never careless with bhakti. The world needs devotees with large hearts. But large-heartedness does not mean spiritual vagueness. The world needs devotees who can embrace and feed, encourage, and uplift. But the world also needs devotees who know what must be protected. Let this be our prayer. O Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please make our lives places where you want to stay. Let our affection bind you. Let our service please you. Let our discernment honor you. Let our communities be warm enough to heal the brokenhearted and pure enough to protect the holy name. May we carry your mercy outward to everyone. And may we be guarded inwardly, guarding the treasure of pure devotion. Let the forest dance. Let Varanasi awaken. Let our hearts become fit places for Gauranga to remain. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki. So thank you all very much for your kind attention and your valuable time. I don't know if you have time for comments or questions, but I appreciate this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Prabhu?
There's one over here.
Hare Krishna. One of the slides, I can't remember what particularly it said. Could you go back?
Sure.
It was the 3 questions.
Oh, sure. That's in the previous one, yeah.
What do you mean by where do I need warmer hospitality? What do you mean by the word where?
Yes, good question. Where do I need warmer hospitality? Where meaning we put together an inventory of how we interact with people, an honest inventory, list in your mind, in your heart. This is how I speak to this person. This is how I speak to this kind of people. This is how I interact with those devotees. This is how I interact with that particular group of professionals. This is how I interact with when new people come. We have, whether you like it or not, we always have in our minds some categorization of how we interact with certain people certain way. How do you define that certain people group? Like for example, young children, we interact with them a certain way. Someone who is between ages of 6 and 10, we talk to them a different way when they come in. And we say elderly, we see a bunch of people who are dressed in suits and ties, very professional, sharp looking. You'll speak differently to them than you speak to regular folks who are just, in regular clothes. You will notice it's different. So you make an inventory of how you interact with different people. Then you say, where in this list do I need to increase my warmth? You see, where? Where in my life does this part needs to be tweaked, adjusted? Am I warm enough? Like, do people genuinely feel warmth in my presence? Maybe some do. Why do the others not? Where do I need to change so they also do? You see, the 6 Goswamis in the Shad Goswami Ashtakam says, Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priya Karo. You know that line? Dhira Adhira Jano Priyo Priya Karo. That they are beloved by Dhira, the nice, respectable people, and Adhira, the hooligans of the world. They're respected by the miscreants and those who tend to be rascals. They also love Mahaprabhu. These 6 Goswamis who are Mahaprabhu's servants. Why are they loved? Because they're warm. Even to those people, it changes their heart, it softens them. So this is our legacy. It's incumbent upon us to represent Rupa Goswami, where Rupa Nuka is, and all 6 Goswamis, to be Dhira Dhira Jano Priyo. that people feel comfortable, people of all stripes feel not just comfortable, but look forward to spending time with you. That's our project. Where in my inventory of interactions do I need work? And it's an ongoing thing. We'll find it. Our nature is to always create groups in our mind. Because we have to interact. It's natural. We have to interact differently with different groups. Even devotees. We have to interact differently with different devotees. Did you know that? We have to judge. Yes, we have to make a discernment. Who teaches us to make a judgment on devotees? Do you know? Exactly where? Exactly. And how many groups did he talk about? Exactly. So even there, we have to interact differently with different groups. But then later on in that same book, he tells us don't create groups based on this other criteria. What are those groups? He says don't create judgment based on how someone looks or if the skin is different. You know that verse, right? The same book he warned us, make the groups here, but don't group them based on this other thing. And grouping is important. How you interact with different groups is important. But don't make the discernment on superficial discrimination. He warned us. It's a beautiful book, only 11 verses. That's my point. That's where we tweak. Am I giving respect to the Uttamadhikaris? And not just respect. Respect has to be given to even Kanishtas. But am I serving the Uttamas? Am I making friends with the Madhyamas? Am I giving respect from a distance to the Kanishtas? There's a reason why he tells us to do this. It protects our bhakti. But we have to do it with a great deal of respect. Even the lowest of the low, bare minimum is respect. There's no scope for disrespect to anybody. That's not the question at all. See how respectful Mahaprabhu was to the Mayavadis, who are, as far as he's concerned, rascals. That's where we have to learn a balance between the boundaries and warmth. Great question. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Yes, Prabhu. Yes, right in front of you.
Thank you very much. Regarding warmth, here's a dilemma that I've noticed. So we have a big international community. We have properties. We have to protect them and so many things. And leaders do a difficult job and they need to be supported. Now sometimes leaders make mistakes. And what I've noticed sometimes happens is there is no warmth when they make a mistake. Instead, they consult a lawyer. The lawyer tells them, do not apologize for that because you could be sued, or there comes these other factors that come in so that devotees are managers are sometimes interacting with the community via the advice of lawyers. They're not apologizing when they need to, and it really causes, say, this apathy. It causes disappointment in the community and lack of kind of community spirit. So how to resolve this dilemma? Because the managers on their side, they're thinking, well, we have to protect the assets.
Yeah, very deep dilemma, isn't it? Because we are living in an unfortunate litigious society where every smallest thing is a litigation. Yes, it's a very difficult thing. But we have to protect what is the Lord's. We have to protect the assets, of course. And sometimes it does boil down to that. But usually that sort of situation does occur when things have escalated to the point of no return. And even there, we can show warmth even while fighting the case, or even while protecting. It's possible to show warmth without apologizing to protect your legal assets. It's definitely possible. I mean, you see it happening. You see it even in the courts, right? Solicitor will talk about, the lawyer will talk about the other guy as my learned friend. My learned friend here says, that's respect. That's warmth. But I disagree on this point. And we have to then, at that point, the warmth is not about still making yourself vulnerable. It's a good example of what you bring, because the vulnerability becomes clear in this case. You're still remaining warm. And if anybody asks, you can always explain. Look at Arjuna's situation. He has to shoot fiery arrows into the hearts of Bhishma Dev. Where's the warmth over there? Right? Katham Bhishma Maham Samkhe, Dronam cha Madhusudana, Ishubhi Patiyotsiyami, Pujarha Varisudana. He says in the beginning of the Gita, how can I shoot fiery arrows? Katham Bhishma Maham Samkhe. People like Bhishma, Dronam cha Madhusudana, Drona, Ishubhi, arrows. These are worthy of worship. And then he goes on to say, Guru Nahatva Mahanubhava, Shreya Bhoktam Bhakshamapi Haloke. I'd rather beg than do this. So he's trying to apply warmth in a place where it's a legal battle. And yet he's a great devotee. So you understand my situation. Arjuna was in the same dilemma that you're presenting here. There comes a time when even though he loves Drona and Bhishma so much, he is the one who has to shoot arrows. This is going to pierce their hearts. Wow. And Bhishma enjoyed the warmth of those arrows, and he slept in their bed. So things can get complicated. That's why Mahabharata and these Bhagavatam, they teach us that you can be warm and still do your duty. Is that clear? Yes, one more? Sure.
One of the very pleasing things to Krishna is someone defeats Mayavad. And at the same time, as you pointed out, association with Mayavad is very dangerous. So to become expert at defeating Mayavad, is it necessary to learn Mayavad very carefully and to also maybe interact with people? And then this becomes a dilemma. And it relates very much to the previous sort of mood within ISKCON was, we don't go to universities, we don't do studies because,
we'll get contaminated. Yeah.
They will get contaminated and they have nothing to offer us. And then on the other hand, it's moved to a different way now. And some people are saying, we lose people. We lose devotees because they go there and they don't come back. So how do you deal with this little dilemma?
Yes, it's a great question. We get our cues and our clues from Srila Prabhupada himself. Srila Prabhupada did encourage some of his devotees to go ahead and get PhDs in theology in universities. We have famous devotees who he encouraged, by the way. Ravindranath Sarup Prabhu was told by Prabhupada, I want you to finish your degree and I want you to defeat Darwin, I want you to defeat Mayavadis. And Ravindranath Sarup Prabhu did a massive series in, I think, 1990. I have that series. They can get it, they can look it up. On defeating Mayavad philosophy. He did an expose on all kinds of Mayavad across the world through history, in the West, in the East, everything. And he points out different points of how they're wrong based on Prabhupada's teachings. It's brilliant. So, we have to know. So again, we have to discriminate. For me, is it dangerous or am I strong enough to withstand that? See, Mahaprabhu says, Mayavad bhashya shunile hoibe sharvanash. One who hears Mayavad, you destroy it completely. Now, how can you defeat Mayavad without understanding Mayavad? And how can you understand Mayavad without hearing Mayavad? So isn't that a dilemma, isn't it? So, how that works is that when he says Mayavad bhashya shunile doesn't just mean get to know about it. Shunile means to listen with an open heart and allow it to permeate you, influence you. You know what I mean? Like when we say we should associate with devotees and we should not associate non-devotees. Doesn't mean that, I'm sitting at the bus stop and I shouldn't ask that lady there when the next bus is coming because that'll be association with a non-devotee. You know what I mean? Association means you open your heart, allow be vulnerable. So Shunile means the same thing. So you have to have that level. Again, it's the same, comes back to the same, what we discussed today, the boundaries, vulnerability. We have to protect the soft parts. At the same time, we have to interact with the world. Some of our devotees very nicely said, the sannyas danda of this age is a PhD. You have a PhD, people respect you. You get invited to speak at major events, stuff like that. Back then, if you're a sannyas danda, you get invited. In Varanasi, you get the seat. You see, it's different. Today, the sannyas danda is PhD. So similarly, when we go out and learn some of these things, we're respected, we can influence people, and when devotee like Hridayananda Maharaj has a PhD, or Garuda Prabhu, or Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, many, Radhikaraman Prabhu, you know all these great devotees who did PhDs. Radhikaraman Prabhu did from Oxford, right? When they go, they're respected, they go into circles, and when they speak, they actually make devotees among scholarly people. The people become devotees. Mahaprabhu turned all these Varanasi Mayavadis into devotees eventually. So the dilemma is there, but we have to use again discernment when we're judging. And not everybody's meant. Some people do actually get contaminated, and I know some Prabhupada disciples, at least one, who went into PhD Harvard program, is very scholar, everything, but he left the movement and he became a scholar just for the sake of scholarship. He didn't come back. So that is a danger. It is a dangerous slope. It is not that there's no danger there. 100%. You see? So to get the fish and not get wet. Sometimes you get wet. Be careful. Very, very subtle point. Thank you. It's a great, deep question. I'm not sure if I addressed it adequately. All right. I think we're at time. So once again, thank you very much for this opportunity. I look forward to seeing all of you again. Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna.